bold actions of U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett outrageous or necessary? That's really the core question we're tackling today.
Yeah, it's a big one. We're doing a deep dive into a figure who's, well, undeniably sparked some intense national debate.
Definitely. Representative Crockett, a Democrat from Texas, she's had a really rapid ascent since getting to Congress in 2023.
Right. And her background, state legislator, public defender.
Yeah.
It gives an interesting perspective on why she does what she does now, these headline-grabbing actions.
And she certainly knows how to get attention. I mean, you think back to that 2024 DNC moment taking down Trump.
Oh, yeah, the alliteration, it just went viral instantly.
Exactly. She's got this knack, for really sharp rhetoric, cuts right through.
Precisely. And our goal here, it isn't just to list the headlines. We want to really unpack specific examples of her recent moves.
Get into the context.
Exactly. Explore the reactions, which have been pretty diverse, and try to understand, the significance, the why behind it all.
Right. So we've looked at a bunch of sources, focusing on three key things that have really fueled the conversation around her. There's the Governor Hot Wheels thing, the Disgraced Act, and then her take on the transgender athlete debates, basically dismissing them.
Okay, yeah, three big ones.
So let's dive in. First up, Governor Hot Wheels.
Okay, so this was March 2025. She's at a human rights campaign dinner out in L.A.
Right.
And she refers to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who, as you know, uses a wheelchair, Governor Hot Wheels. And she also called him a hot mess.
Wow. Okay, that's strong language.
Very strong.
But it's important to get the context right. This wasn't just out of the blue.
No, absolutely not. Her comments were a direct response to Abbott's policy of busing migrants.
The busing to Democrat-led cities.
Exactly. And Crockett was very clear. She said her criticism was about that policy, which she sees as harmful, politically motivated. She explicitly said she wasn't mocking his disability.
But the reaction, especially from Texas Republicans, it was immediate.
Yeah.
And pretty fierce.
Oh, absolutely. Representative Randy Weber, he introduced a censure resolution right away.
And just for you listening, a censure resolution, it's like a formal smack on the wrist from Congress. No legal penalty, but it's a big symbolic disapproval.
Right. And Weber accused her of being insensitive, disrespectful. Governor Abbott himself went on Fox News.
Yeah. What did he say?
He basically called it another day and another disaster by the Democrats, framed it as, part of this pattern of divisive talk.
Okay. But on the flip side, she obviously has supporters who saw it differently.
For sure. Activist Olivia Giuliana, for instance, she publicly praised Crockett's passion. Said she was right to condemn what they see as harmful policies. And that wasn't about Abbott's disability.
So you see that split online, too?
Definitely. You had accounts like at Call to Activism on X, hailing her as this powerful voice, saying she's articulating frustrations lots of people feel. But then others, like at ComVTV, suggested maybe she was using that inflammatory language, strategically, to get attention.
Right. And even some people who might agree with her politically, they still had issues with the words she used, the professionalism aspect.
Exactly. Jeffrey Blehar, he wrote a national review, basically dismissed her attempts to provoke as artificial, said it was counterproductive. So this whole incident, it really shows that tightrope, doesn't it? Using provocative language can energize your base, for sure.
But it can also alienate a lot of other people and raises questions about, conduct.
Yeah. It's a central challenge right now.
Okay, let's pivot. Second example, the Disgraced Act.
Yeah.
July 2024. Now, that's a bill name designed to grab attention.
Oh, yeah. H.R. 8081. The full name is quite something. Denying infinite security and government resources allocated toward convicted and extremely dishonorable former protectees act.
Wow, okay. And Crockett co-sponsored this.
She did, and the goal was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Strip former President Trump of his Secret Service protection after his felony convictions in New York.
Okay, that's a very direct legislative punch. How did that go down?
Swift and strong reaction, especially from Republicans, as you'd expect. 16 Texas Republicans, including State Rep Brian Harrison.
Yeah.
They actually called for her resignation over it.
Resignation, really?
Yep. Their argument was basically that former presidents, regardless of legal troubles, need Secret Service for their safety, for national security.
So another instance of really sharp condemnation. What about her supporters? How did they see this?
Well, for them, this was seen as, a bold move.
Right.
Necessary, even. holding a former president accountable.
Ties into her previous comments about his rap sheet at the DNC.
Exactly. You saw folks on X, like at Black Knight 10K, praising her for actually doing something, confronting what they see as Republican inaction.
And the critics.
Critics on X, like at Dumb Luker, called it an overreach, a politically motivated attack, just partisan politics.
And this got picked up quite a bit in the media, I imagine.
Oh, definitely. The bill didn't pass, I should say.
Right.
But it absolutely amplified her image as someone willing to take these very firm, potentially divisive stands.
And there was misinformation, too.
Yeah, there were even things like Alex Jones falsely claiming she was calling for violence against Trump, which wasn't true, but it shows how heated things get.
Right, how narratives get twisted in this environment.
And it even got a personal response from Trump himself. In a 2025 interview, he called her a low IQ person.
Oof, okay. Adds another layer, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
All right, let's shift again. Third example. Representative Crockett on the transgender athlete debates. This was around March 2025.
Yes. So, first, in an interview with the 19th, she called the whole debate over trans athletes in women's sports a distraction. Said it was creating unnecessary divisions among Democrats.
Okay, a distraction.
Then later, in a House Oversight Subcommittee hearing, she basically accused Republicans of using the issue to deflect, to divert attention from what she called their demonic and disastrous policies. That phrasing was reported by at Breitbart News.
Demonic and disastrous. That's quite a statement, but it definitely got pushback.
It did. Representative Pat Fallon, for example, he argued she was minimizing real concerns, the potential impacts on female athletes.
He brought up specific cases.
Yeah, he cited Peyton McNabb, the volleyball player, whose career ended after an injury involving a transgender player back in 2022.
And there's polling on this too, right? Within the Democratic Party itself.
That's important context, yeah. A 2024 New York Times Ipsos poll showed that actually a big majority of Democrats, like 67%, opposed trans athletes competing in women's sports.
So her stance might actually be out of step with a lot of her own party on this one.
It suggests that, yeah. Which makes her position even more striking.
So again, we see these really divergent opinions.
Exactly. You had supporters on X, again at Call to Activism, praising her for trying to refocus on what they see as bigger issues, healthcare, voting rights.
Right, calling out GOP tactics as they see it.
But then you had Representative Nancy Mace with a really sharp rebuttal, accused Democrats of neglecting women's concerns. And she even challenged Crockett to take it outside during a hearing.
Seriously?
Yeah. And you also saw reports, particularly on Fox News, pointing out the risk here that this kind of stance could alienate voters, even Democrats, who do have genuine concerns about fairness in sports.
So with this one, it really seems like she's not just challenging Republicans, but maybe creating waves within her own coalition, too.
That's a really key point. It really highlights her focus on what she views as these fundamental systemic issues.
Even if it means taking positions that are controversial, maybe unpopular, even among Democrats.
It seems so, yeah. That seems to be her calculation.
Okay, so these three examples, they paint a pretty clear picture of her approach and the reactions it sparks. Looking broader now, what are the impacts we're seeing from this style?
Well, for her supporters, there are definitely positives they point to. Representative Jamie Raskin, for example, he's praised her publicly as a really effective communicator.
And those viral moments, like the clash with Marjorie Taylor Greene over fake eyelashes.
Right, those absolutely help her cut through the media noise. She gets noticed.
And fundraising.
Significant success there. She brought in $4.1 million for the DCCC by May 2025. That's a lot.
Wow.
And reports say she's done 108 district visits, so she seems very engaged with her constituents back home, too.
Okay. But then there's the other side. The negative perceptions, the criticisms.
Absolutely. We mentioned some, like the inaccurate claim from Pam Bondi about inciting terrorism against Tesla just for criticizing Elon Musk's subsidies.
Right, those kinds of mischaracterization.
Exactly. And they feed this narrative some push that she's prone to gaffes or, overstatements. Charles Downs called her a gaffe machine.
And there was that FEC complaint, too, about Act Blue donations.
Yeah, a 2025 complaint. Raised questions about campaign finance stuff, though it's important to note the FEC hasn't actually taken action on that.
Okay. So how does this all fit this style into the bigger picture, the political trends we're seeing now?
Well, you have activists like Olivia Juliana arguing this more direct, more emotionally resonant style really connects with younger voters.
People may be turned off by traditional politics.
Perhaps, yeah. And Crockett herself on X, she talks about holding Republicans accountable on food security, housing, healthcare. Things that resonate with people who feel left behind.
But the Democratic Party as a whole seems to be still figuring out how to handle this kind of rhetoric.
Yeah, the New York Times has noted that. They're sort of grappling with how effective this provocative style is, especially thinking about recent elections. It's a balancing act for the party.
So it just keeps coming back to that tension, doesn't it? Professionalism versus maybe raw passion, and what actually works.
Exactly. You've got critics like Randy Weber saying her language is dangerous, it undermines civility. National Review called her style flat, performative even.
But supporters, like that at Black Knight 10K account on X,
they see her as powerful, authentic, a voice for communities, particularly Black and progressive voters who feel like they haven't been heard.
And her past actions seem to fit this pattern, challenging power.
Definitely. Think back to the 2021 quorum break in Texas over voting rights, or her more recent investigations into Elon Musk. It shows a consistency there.
But taking these stands, especially against figures like Trump, it must come with risks for her personally, politically.
Undeniably. Drawing direct fire from Trump, especially over the Hot Wheels comment and the Disgraced Act, that could absolutely impact her 2026 reelection.
So navigating that spotlight, that intense reaction, is going to be key for her.
For sure. And she seems ambitious, too. There's talk, reported by Politico, about her possibly eyeing the ranking member spot on the House Oversight Committee.
Though she'd face a challenge there from Representative Kwesi Mafum, who has seniority.
Right. But her ability to go viral, to raise serious money, it makes her a contender, someone people are watching.
So when you boil it all down, it feels like Representative Crockett really embodies the central conflict in politics right now. That push to fiercely advocate for marginalized groups, but doing it in a way that risks making those partisan divides even deeper.
Yeah. That clash she had with Nancy Mace over civil rights subcommittees, it's kind of a perfect example of that dynamic in action.
So, yeah, her actions, they're definitely complex, multifaceted. They spark admiration on one side, condemnation on the other.
No easy labels fit, really.
So, wrapping up this deep dive, we kind of land back where we started, with that question for you, the listener. Based on what we've discussed, these examples, do you see Jasmine Crockett's actions as outrageous or necessary advocacy?
Or maybe somewhere in between. And maybe think bigger, too. How are figures like Crockett changing political conversation itself?
Right. What are the long-term effects for engagement, but also for division?
It's definitely complex, no easy answers, like I said. Hopefully this gives you more context to keep thinking about it.
Definitely something to chew on.